Hi everyone, welcome to the Latte Lounge Instagram Live with me, Katie Taylor, and we are just waiting for Diane Danzebrink to join us, and then we will start. Just waiting for Diane to join us, and then we will kick off soon. So we'll just wait for a few of you to join too. Going to wave at a few people while I'm waiting. Are you there, Diane? Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right, lovely. I just had a sudden panic when I got my phone set up on the tripod and I suddenly realised that my phone had hardly any charge left in it.
God. Don't you love technology?
Ah, the joys, eh?
Oh dear. Anyway, you're here and I'm here, so that's something.
We're both here. It's a miracle, lovely.
Anyway, I just wanted to say hello and thank you for joining us. And we've got lots of lovely people watching us.
My pleasure.
So, yeah. So look, as you know, and everyone watching knows, I'm running a series of events for Menopause Awareness Month. And
Hooray!
And who better could I kick it off with than the gorgeous Diane Danzebrink? So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, lovely.
Right, so Diane, for everyone who doesn't know Diane, and I'm sure everyone does know you, but Diane is a psychotherapist and she's a menopause expert and a wellbeing consultant. And Di is best known for being the creator of and I'm going to hold up my wristband, but it might be back to front, the Make Menopause Matter campaign. Oh, you've got your card and I've got my wristband. But I think it's back to front.
Oh, it's the thought that counts, lovely.
Absolutely. And before we talk about the campaign, I just want to rewind quickly. Well, for Di and I, our stories actually started 8 years ago, I think. Yeah, okay. So yeah. We didn't know each other at all, but our paths collided. For good or bad. Well, good, all good. But I think I obviously, before I talk about my own story, which a lot of women know, I will just very briefly explain what we're going to chat about today, and then we're going to kick off. So as well as Diane's story behind why she set up the Menopause Support Network and why I set up the Latte Lounge, we also are going to touch on a campaign that another campaign, it's a fundraising campaign that Diane has recently launched as well. And we're going to just talk about a few sort of common things that we hear day in, day out. So Di, let's start off very quickly. My story I can sum up in 2 seconds, which is very similar to a lot of people's. Yours is much more harrowing. My own story was age 43, 8 years ago, spent 4 years suffering with every single menopause symptom I could have, except hot flushes and except I still had periods. It was misdiagnosed as depression and I was sent to millions of different doctors and spent 4 years feeling rubbish. Anyway, finally got given HRT and was told I was going through perimenopause, which was a word not many people had heard of or told me about. And that's why I set up our forum, the Latte Lounge, which is a midlife forum, for women to talk about perimenopause and menopause, but to talk about all our midlife health and well-being issues because it's all wrapped up into one. And whilst I was doing this Facebook group, I came across Diane, who had set up a similar Facebook group, but it was called the Menopause Support Network. And I asked Di if she could help me out because I was being drowned by thousands of requests and I needed a professional support. So, Di, tell everyone about your story, because that's where you and I met, and what led to you setting up the Menopause Support Network.
Yeah, so I'll keep this really brief, lovely. But essentially, 8 years ago, I had to have a total hysterectomy. So that was my womb, both my ovaries, my cervix. I had to have it because at the time it was suspected that I had ovarian cancer. So I had to have it quite quickly. Obviously, when somebody tells you that they think you've got something along those lines, you're very happy to have your surgery very quickly. I'd been quite poorly for the 6 months before, so went in, had my surgery. A gynecologist came and saw me afterwards, and she said she was pretty sure, having seen the complex cysts on both my ovaries, that it had not yet become malignant, but she felt that the surgery had been done, in her words, just in time. It also turned out that I'd been living with grade 4 endometriosis for many years, a condition called adenomyosis, which, Katie, I know that you and I shared, and I also had a massive fibroid. So for my general health, I'd been living for about 15 years with lots and lots of abdominal pain, told many times essentially to go away. I was being hysterical, blah, blah, blah. You will have heard this all before. But nobody sat me down before my surgery or after it and explained that at 44, being plunged into surgical menopause, what the potential consequences of that were to my physical, cognitive, and mental health. So I was delighted to learn from the histology that the gynecologist had been correct. Unfortunately, during the surgery, my bladder had been nicked because there were so many adhesions in my abdomen. So a couple of weeks later, went back to the hospital, had my catheter removed, and sort of pretty much thought, okay, so I'll look after myself for a few weeks, but then I'm so lucky, I just really want to get on with my life. For about 2 to 3 months, it was all looking as if it was going the right way. Had some hot flushes, but thought, do you know what? It's a small price to pay, essentially. And then things started to go really wrong really quickly. I started to develop really severely debilitating anxiety, panic attacks. I became more and more agoraphobic. Wouldn't leave the house, completely stopped work. I was running 2 small businesses at the time. They both, I couldn't concentrate on either of them. I was just terrified of really normal things like answering the telephone, opening post. At one point, rang the GP practice to ask if there was a menopause support group anywhere. And she just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, my dear, there's nothing like that," which was a really crushing blow to me at the time. I had chosen not to take HRT because my mum had HRT 25 years before, and all I knew about it was that it was the old type of equine derived HRT, and I didn't fancy that. But nobody had ever bothered to update me to tell me there were body identical types of HRT. And essentially, long story short, things became so bad that my poor mother had to come and pretty much live with us so that my husband could continue to go to work because he was so worried about me. And I pretty much couldn't really be without somebody else in the house. That's how sort of unstable I had become. I tried a couple of times, went to see a nutritionist in London who absolutely assured me that her herbs, vitamins and minerals would see me right. Of course, I know now that that was absolutely wrong for somebody that had lost both their ovaries. And finally, it came to the point where I got incredibly close to taking my own life. It was at that point that my husband, pretty much picked me up and took me to the doctors and insisted on some help. And for the first time, I think it was 7 months after my surgery, for the very first time, a healthcare practitioner took the time to explain to me exactly what that drastic loss of estrogen had resulted in, and why, for me, the symptoms were not so much physical, but they were psychological symptoms, and why I had become, you know, so anxious, so agoraphobic, etc., etc. Essentially, I'd become an absolute husk of the person that I used to be.
Yeah.
She told me for the very first time that there was a type of HRT which was body identical and plant derived, and that I didn't have to have tablets, that I could have a patch. So she prescribed me some patches and said, come and see me in a few weeks' time. Let's see how you go. She was brilliant. She gave me her number. She was excellent. And a few days, I had been living my life under a really dark cloud, essentially. And a few days after putting my patches on, it was as if there was just a tiny chink of light through that dark cloud. And at that point, I started to believe that perhaps there was some hope for the future. Really, I guess during that time, I spent a lot of time on social media, which at the time was really more forums and chat rooms than the kind of, you know, groups we have now. And I was just coming across all sorts of people saying, please help me, I feel so alone. Please help me, I feel like I'm going mad. And it just made me think, you know, how can it possibly be that if menopause is going to affect half the population, how can it possibly be that we've got so many people struggling? This just can't be right. Why is this happening? And to be honest, at the time, I was in no physical or mental state to help anybody else. So I sort of made a promise to myself that if I ever felt well again, that I would make damn sure that I did something to change it. I spent, it took me a long while to get my HRT right. I kept going back to the doctors. I was refused something that I needed in my particular circumstance. I ended up having to see a private practitioner to get the right help and support. And it also made me think, well, what about if you can't afford to do that? What about if you don't have the resources to see a private practitioner? What the hell do you do then? So it just kind of strengthened my resolve, really. So as Katie said, I'm a therapist. And what I decided to do was I decided to take some time out and go back and do some more training, which I did. And I also decided to do some menopause training so that I could combine the two to be able to support other women. But I knew that I wanted to do something bigger than, you know, just me supporting individuals. So I set up something called Menopause Support, which is a not-for-profit community interest organisation, so that we can hopefully in the future start to produce some resources to ensure that we're plugging some of the information gaps. And then in October 2018, I launched the hashtag Make Menopause Matter campaign in Parliament, which had three aims. One is mandatory menopause education for all GPs. Another one is menopause support in every workplace. And the third one was to have menopause included on the new RSE curriculum in secondary schools. And I'm thrilled to say that as from last month, menopause was added to the curriculum in England. So Katie has been and supported me at meetings in Parliament. And essentially, we really feel that we're, you know, very slowly but surely starting to make a difference. But for me, I believe that every woman deserves to have the right care and support at the right time. And I truly believe that we are going to be the generation that will make menopause matter.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times you tell me that story, and I must have heard it 100 times over the last few years. I still shiver and horrified, and I relate to pretty much all of it. You know, I was also in a very dark place and had a hysterectomy, and you know, was sort of followed similar paths. And what just never, what frustrates me the most is that, you know, we've both been seen by gynecologists who, you know, you would think are at the top of their game. It doesn't matter if they're private or NHS. And the fact that, you know, neither of us were told anything at all about what would happen to us or what could happen to us. And the fact that, you know, our doctors, and I never blame or point fingers at GPs ever, because they, you know, they have 10 minutes to see us, but it just seems unbelievable that they don't put two and two together. And you know, and I think one of the most shocking statistics, you know, the highest rate of suicide in women is it's around their 50s. Yeah. And it's no surprise, because it's not just about midlife pressures coming together, be it, you know, jobs and kids and our parents aging, but our hormones at the same time. You know, having this estrogen deficiency where our, you know, moods plummet and our well-being plummets, you know, it's no wonder that, you know, some women are so desperate. So what you've done, I'm in absolute awe of. You know, I am delighted to have been a tiny supporter on the sidelines, you know, cheering you on, and I'm right behind you, and I'm so grateful for everything you do to support the women on your group and my group. And it's just all about education. It's about, you know, writing, you know, blogs for women to read, to educate themselves. It's about banging that drum to, you know, get, you know, mandatory menopause training. The thing that frustrates me also, you know, I've got a nephew who's in his final year of medical school, and they literally had a 5-minute discussion on menopause and HRT, and that was it.
So I totally hear what you say about GPs. They only have 10 minutes. I absolutely get it. However, the difficulty for GPs is that they don't get taught properly. So, you know, I've written so many letters to the Royal College of GPs, you know, and I always get the same old answer back. You know, we're aware of this. It's in the curriculum. It gets taught. Rubbish. No, it doesn't, because it gets taught in some places. I think we have around 22 different medical schools in the UK, and some of them teach nothing. Some of them teach a tiny bit. Some of them just think that actually that should be done on hospital rotation, or it should be done once they go into their GP practice trainee position. And of course, oh great, somebody's just knocked at the door. That's marvellous.
Is it one of your dogs?
So hopefully my lovely husband is going to go and answer the door. So the difficulty is, Katie, is that, you know, essentially, if lawyers, I'll put it to you like this, if lawyers and accountants had a major gap in their knowledge, their professional knowledge, that was affecting people's finances or, you know, any legal proceedings that they were involved in, there would be national uproar.
Yeah.
However, it seems to be that the status quo has been allowed to continue, that women's health, oh well, you know, it's a kind of afterthought. Yeah. And it happens to half the population. So it should be a mandatory part of doctor education in medical school, not once they go into their specialism, because as you rightly said, estrogen deficiency will affect pretty much every part of a woman's body. So whether you're going to be a GP, whether you're going to be a rheumatologist, a cardiologist, whether you're going to be a dermatologist, a gynecologist, whatever you're going to do, if you're going to see women, then it is going to affect them, particularly psychiatrists, which far too many women get referred to because of estrogen depletion affecting their brain function.
And it's a no-brainer, because it would save, I mean, for us, it would save thousands and thousands of pounds. I mean,
millions of pounds, Katie.
Millions.
It would save millions.
Yes. I mean, I was sent to a psychiatrist, a heart specialist, a dementia specialist, put on various antidepressants, and they were all, you know, someone else's time and money. And, you know, and for a cardiologist to be sent there with heart palpitations and for them to sort of put equipment on me for 24 hours to sleep in and say, oh, well, you're fine. You know, and not to have put two and two together and asked any other questions like, well, hang on, what else have you got other than heart palpitations? It's almost medical negligence as far as I'm concerned. And as you've said, it's just outrageous. But look, I mean, you know, there's some amazing menopause, you know, sort of, we call them meno warriors. You know, it's not the most sexy thing to be part of, but we're all really passionate and determined. You know, we've got the lovely Jane Lewis and Sam Evans, and obviously Dr. Louise Newson on our website, and we're all, you know, determined to see change, and we all want to support Diane, to, you know, support all these other women. Just talk to us about your fundraising campaign and why you're doing it, and how it's going, and more importantly, how women can support that and the campaign.
Yeah, sure. So essentially, the campaign, the Make Menopause Matter campaign, started, as everything has started, on my kitchen table. And since 2015 until 2 or 3 months ago, I have essentially running the Menopause Support Network, which is a group of nearly 17,000 women, doing my day job, which is, you know, my therapy day job, running the campaign, you know, having the website, etc. Up until a few months ago, it has all been just me, apart from my fabulous moderators who help me to look after the group. But on a day-to-day basis, you know, you didn't have any admin support or anything. So it was all me. And it just got to the point where I thought, either I'm going to burn out, or I need to do something about this. So I thought, okay, so what can I do so that we can be able to drive this campaign essentially to its conclusion, but so that we can start to create some professional resources for women, for doctors, for schools, etc., etc. And I thought, okay, so the only way that I'm going to be able to do this is by getting some funding. So I thought, okay, so it's a community interest company, which is a not-for-profit organisation. So basically, the profit goes back into the cause. So I thought, well, I know what I'll do. You know, I've got this massive group of 17,000 women, and I've got a decent following on other sorts of social media. I'll launch a funding campaign and see what happens. And I think I launched it, I think it was the first week in July. So we're kind of about 3 months old, and I think we've raised over £11,000,
yeah,
which is fantastic, which now means that we can build, you know, we can build all sorts of resources, but I can also take on some help that can support me with doing some of the admin, so that I can spend more time doing the things that I need to do, driving the campaign, seeing more people, sorting those resources, etc. So it's, you know, sort of, it's been really encouraging so far. But of course, as you've recognised, this is a very big nut to crack, and it's going to take a lot of us pulling together as a community to actually do that. So yeah, basically, the funding campaign is there. It will continue, and then what we'll do is, as we come to do each individual project, we'll, you know, I probably at the end of October, I will, you know, sort of bring that initial campaign to a conclusion. Then we'll take stock, and then as we go forward, we'll look at what funding we're going to need to be able to do each of those projects, and then we'll launch small, you know, sort of small campaigns for them. But it's just really, Katie, a way to be able to kind of grow the community, grow the support, and for everybody to feel that they're actually able to, if they would like to, that they're able to contribute to this movement. So there's a GoFundMe page. You can find it on the Menopause Support website. If you're there and you haven't already signed the campaign, then please do. I would absolutely love to populate social media with the Make Menopause Matter campaign on World Menopause Day, which is the 18th. I would love it to go viral on World Menopause Day. So please kind of keep that on your phones or iPads or whatever it is you use. We've got a PayPal button now on the website that people can donate to. At some point we will be, you know, sort of approaching grant funders, etc. But as you can imagine, at the moment, all the grant funding that we sort of had in mind is going towards, quite rightly, is going towards COVID projects. I totally understand that. So it's another reason why I decided to go to the community, really, to see if we could sort of raise some funds amongst ourselves, because it's wonderful for us to be talking about this and for more and more people to be raising their voices, but we also need to take some action.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, while you're on the subject of World Menopause Day, and it's obviously very relevant. So it's October the 18th, World Menopause Day. And over on the Latte Lounge, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Avram Blooming.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, who's amazing, live from Los Angeles. And Avram's written a fantastic book called Estrogen Matters. And, you know, there's been, you know, as Dan and I were saying, there's been so much HRT sort of scaremongering, you know, in the media. It's had a bad rap because of a Women's Health Initiative report in, you know, when was it, 2002?
Yeah.
And, you know, and that report was sort of drew links between increased, you know, risk of breast cancer and other diseases. Since then, there's been many studies which has basically debunked that and actually shown, which women just don't know, that there are so many benefits of actually taking estrogen if you want to. You know, obviously there are alternatives, but what Di and I are always talking about, you know, but on both our Facebook groups and just in the other work we do, is it's informed decision making. So us women, you know, we need to inform ourselves with evidence-based information, and then we need to have that information to hand when we talk to our doctors and make this joint decision about the, you know, the treatments that we want to have. And it has to, at the end of the day, it has to be our choice how we want to be looked after. So look, I really hope as many people as possible will not only join our event on October the 18th, but they'll sign Diane's Make Menopause Matter campaign petition. If you can donate, please do, because Di and I both were the same. We started at our kitchen tables doing this all on our own. These Facebook groups are amazing, and without, you know, Tara and Tracy, and without the gorgeous Andrea, and I can't remember
Andrea, Steph and Vanessa are my moderators.
Steph and Vanessa. You guys are honestly amazing, and I don't know how you put up with us, because Facebook groups are a full-time job, and that is literally,
they are.
Yeah. So look, Di, honestly, thank you for joining me this morning, for all the work you do. You know, I will always have your back, and I'm grateful for everything you do for us at the Latte Lounge, but also for all women out there.
Bless you, honey. Thank you so much for your support. Love you lots.
Pleasure. And you. Take care. And if anyone wants to email me to sort of discuss anything, it's katie@lattelounge.co. The website is www.lattelounge.co. And I'm Diane, your website is
menopausesupport.co.uk.
Exactly. All right. Have a lovely day and try and get out if the rain stops.
You too, lovely. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Now I've just got to remember how to save and stop this so you can all turn away. I love technology.
So is it telling you to end, Katie?
Well, it isn't, but it really should, shouldn't it? Oh, there we go. End.
End. Bye, honey.